was like a mouse, General. A little mouse being toyed with by a terrible cat.
A rather wet mouse.
I was like a little underwater mouse.
Being stalked by a giant rubbery electrical cat with 8 tentacles.
Exactly, General.
Good, I'm glad we cleared that up. You may continue. Submarines. You didn't mention submarines before.
Didn't I? Why? No, Naverne, General, of course. Submarines. Millions of them. Several, at least.
Any particular submarines? Did you see names? Numbers?
General, have you lost a submarine?
I am not at liberty to answer that question, as you well know.
Well, General, losing one's car in a snowstorm is unfortunate, as you say. But to lose a whole submarine, that could be considered careless.
And you are certain it was M. Deveshchi
Well, that was painted on the hull, so I can only assume so.
I think I know where this dismal story is going next. You somehow miraculously brought the remaining closed cycle engine online, flooded the torpedo tubes, dispatched the Kraken with one shot, and triumphantly surfaced.
No, General, that is not what happened at all. I did indeed make my way to the torpedo tubes, but for a very different purpose. After all, history has taught us that atomic power is not to be toyed with.
Much like tired, impatient generals, perhaps. Particularly the perplexed ones.
Indeed, General. Or like dogs that will eat no cheese.
determined yet disorientated hero end his days as socialist sushi? Will his daring exploits be cut tragically short by vengeful calamari? Will the general's wife ever forgive him for missing Ruslan and Lyudmila? And just how many eggs did Pavel steal, and where did he keep them? All of these questions and more may or may not be answered in the next exciting episode of Little Orpheus!
I was alive, General. Somehow, miraculously, I was alive. Some twist of fate, some hand of destiny, but I was alive. Strange as this new world was, I knew Toll must have come this way, and it was my task to find him. And it happened like this. The sun beat down on me relentlessly. The heat was unbearable. I was exhausted. Yet I could not stop. I had to go on. For 7 weeks I trudged across the desert. On the second day...
Please, comrade, if we may. I think we can skip the details, unless you consider them to be particularly relevant to the location of Little Orpheus.
Of course, General. We will simply omit the tale of the singing chasm, the oasis of mirrors, the sightings of Toll's Mienk aloft on their pterodactyls carrying parts of my crashed rocket drill over the horizon to Lemuria.
Wait, the what?
Singing chasm?
Not that, but the rocket drill.
Oh yes, General, the rocket drill. But what did Toll want with it? And why Lemuria?
Lemuria?
Lemuria, General.
I am not familiar with this Lemuria, comrade.
Well, that is because it does not exist, General. Or at least, so I thought. Strange crystals seemed to exert an extraordinary hold over the stone blocks and arches. When they hummed, the whole city remade itself. Where they were missing, clearly looted by some villainous thief, the city was fallen to ruin. It was like a vast musical instrument, vandalized and yet still attempting to toot.
How poetic. I am sure our engineers would be fascinated and baffled in equal measure. If the whole department hadn't been arrested for sedition last week,
I would happily convey it to their skeptical ears.
Sedition, General? Really?
How poetic. I am sure our engineers would be fascinated and baffled in equal measure. If the whole department hadn't been arrested for sedition last week, I would happily convey it to their skeptical ears.
Sedition?
How poetic. I am sure our engineers would be fascinated and baffled in equal measure. If the whole department hadn't been arrested for sedition last week, I would happily convey it to their skeptical ears.
Sedition, General? Really? It is unfortunate news indeed.
I am joking, Comrade.
Oh yes, the Mank for here, all right. Which meant whatever dastardly scheme Toll had, it was to be enacted on these burning sands.
And you will explain this in due course, I imagine.
Eminently, General. What you need to know first is this. I have told you already how parts of the devices the enslaved Mienk were forced to wear came from the surface.
Radio parts and so on, yes, from what you have told me. Assuming there were plenty of lost ships in the ocean as you claim, for Toll to have dredged up what he needed to assemble them.
Aha! Good! You are one step ahead of me, General.
I said assuming.
Of course, assuming. Now, as I gazed in awe at the buildings rising and falling around me, I realized that the other major component of those mind-controlling helmets was crystal. Toll had raided Lemuria for them. He knew the city. He knew the crystals could amplify vibrations and waves, and was using them to boost the signal of the radio parts to exert his control over the Mengf.
Yes?
Imagine, General, what such amplification could achieve when fused to the finest atomic science our great Soviet civilization has produced.
Wait. I do not understand. You said Tull was planning on using the bomb to shatter the Earth's crust to return to the surface.
A tragic mistake, General. Recognized the extent of his mad ambitions.